Hi, good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock Nigerian time. How are you doing? You're welcome to another episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. Today, I choose to be grateful. What do you what are you grateful for? What about you? Are you grateful? I choose to be grateful. I choose to be grateful for you. For each time we call, you always join us on the Yabo Voice webinar. Each time we roll out our banners, you're always here. Each time we open our Zoom platform, you are here joining us on each episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. And so I choose to be grateful for you. I choose to be very grateful for you. What about you? Today, we have something very special that we will be discussing on this Yabo Voice platform. And it promises to be really, really exciting because we have very serious, local experts, professionals who are ready to help us dig deep into the topic. But before we move on, I want to formally welcome you to this episode of the Yabo Voice webinar. I want to welcome the medical director, Dr. Dubenga Adekile Owoye. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Akintoyese, for the good work and for keeping this program running. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to today's edition of our regular webinar by Yaba Voice on mental health issues. Yaba Voice is a platform for mental health education, advocacy, and community outreach. It is a platform of Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Yaba Lagos, through which the hospital creates awareness and educate the populace on topical mental health issues. Today's topic is social media and mental health, balancing the odds. Social media and mental health, balancing the odds. As we all know, social media connotes those online platforms where users can share information and connect with virtual communities through text, videos, photos, and other content. And as at year 2024, over 5 billion users have been recorded on the social media platform, which is about 62% of the world population. Many people spend hours on daily basis with virtual friends on the social media. These actions may have psychosocial consequences on the mental health of the individual. So in today's webinar, many issues will be discussed. For instance, we want to know the relationship between social media and mental health. What are the factors in the social media that can really affect our mental health? How do we recognize this problem early? What are the available solutions to such? And how do we prevent social media problems from affecting our own mental health? To do justice to this topic today, our seasoned experts in the house who are versatile in the area of social media and mental health. Our first presenter today is Dr. Batomi Alalade. Dr. Batomi Alalade is a consultant psychiatrist at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, Nigeria. His university education was at Ladoke Akitola University of Technology, Oyo State, where he had bachelor's of medicine and bachelor's of surgery. He had his residency training in psychiatry at the prestigious Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, where he obtained a fellowship of the West African College of Physicians. He has a special interest in general adult psychiatry as well as perinatal psychiatry. He's a member of several professional bodies, among which are the Lagos Psychosocial Response Team, the Nigerian Medical Association, and International Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy Association, and so on and so forth. His passion for mental wellness has led him to speak in various corporate meetings, media organizations, and religious gatherings with the aim of improving their awareness. He has received several awards, including one from the Lagos State government on his immense contribution to awareness and promotion of mental health in Lagos State. He loves sleeping, reading, and giving talks. He's married to a child psychiatrist, and both are blessed with 2 beautiful children. Our second presenter today is Mr. Pilot Bolahan. Mr. Pilot Bolahan is a licensed clinical psychologist at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, nearby Lagos. He had his first degree in psychology and master's degree in clinical psychology from the prestigious University of Lagos, Nigeria. He is a member of the Nigerian Psychological Association, an affiliate member of the American Psychological Association, and a member of the Employee Assistance Professional Association. Bolahan has training and certifications in cognitive behavioral therapy and substance use disorder treatment, and utilizes a collaborative and compassionate approach to therapy to foster hope, healing, and resilience in his clients. Bolahan's clinical experience spans over 10 years of providing psychological services to a variety of individuals, including adolescents, youth, and adults in various settings. He has experience working with a variety of issues, including substance abuse, addiction, anxiety, depression, sexual abuse, trauma and grief, loss, and personality problems. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Bolahan is versatile in various areas of psychological intervention. He promotes and embraces the practice of gratitude, the value of human connection, and the importance of finding meaning in one's life. In his free time, he enjoys reading, exercising, playing video games, and spending time with his family. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you to kindly relax this afternoon and listen to our mental health expert as we promise you a rewarding session of today's webinar. Over to you, Dr. Kemi Akintoye. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Medical Director, for that arousing welcome. And thank you for introducing us to the concepts that we will be discussing today. And like the Medical Director has said, we have very seasoned experts in the house who would talk to us about this very important topic. We're looking at social media and mental health and balancing the arts. The question in my mind is, in a world where it looks like there's so much coming as a result of the social media, the negative consequences and likes, how do we balance this? Now, that's not my problem. The seasoned experts are here to talk to us about it. Now, Dr. Alalade will kickstart this conversation with us, and he will be talking to us about what social media is, mental health, as well as how social media affects the brain, and then the potential pathway through which social media may cause harm to an individual's mental health. Over to you, Dr. Obatomi Alalade.
Okay, thank you very much. An absolute pleasure to be here, and good afternoon, good day to all our online audience. This topic is quite apt and important in this day and age, especially as quite a lot of us are ardent users of various social media platforms. Before I delve into the question that was asked, just like the medical director said, social media refers to all digital platforms that enables users from across the world to create, to share, and to engage content. Also helps to foster communication and community relationships or building amongst billions of people worldwide. So obviously it's a way to connect with the world, if we can put it simply as that. Like I can be in Nigeria and obviously travel the world by just being on social media. So that's what it can do for us. And obviously there are different platforms or social media platforms. We know the Facebook, we know the LinkedIn, we know Instagram, we're aware of TikTok, YouTube's, Twitter, now known as X, Threads, common WhatsApp, such that almost everybody has one form of social media platform or the other. And like earlier said, about 5 billion people worldwide use social media, and Facebook is the commonest of all. In Nigeria, an estimated about 33 million people are on different social media platforms, and the average daily usage or time spent is about 3 hours per user on social media. And we can look at it in such a way that for Nigeria, we have out of the 30 million people down different social media platforms, we have about 76% of them also being on Facebook, though some have multiple platforms, but 76% are on Facebook. And we have about 58% on Instagram and 54% on YouTube. We all know that they offer different things, right? If you are looking for videos to learn about different things, YouTube can give you that. Facebook helps you connect with friends, people from old schools and everything like that. So it cuts across generation, right? More of the older ones stay on Facebook, younger ones are on Twitter, on Instagram, and a lot of people, almost everybody is on WhatsApp connecting with others. So social media has come to stay. However, what is relationship? How does it affect the brain? What kind of relationship do we have between social media and mental health? Because as much as it is good and helps connect, there could also be some consequences of a relationship with mental health. If we look at it, some of the problems that may be associated with mental health issues is, let me talk about some structures and the reward pathway, right? It's a way in which when you're on social media, especially if someone likes your content or you are producing some content, maybe on Instagram, on Twitter, it has a way of activating the reward system or the reward pathway. So in the brain, some structures that are responsible includes the amygdala, the nucleus accumbens. So when you're on social media, you like what you are seeing, you are enjoying it. Somebody likes your post or somebody shares your content, or you see a news feed that you're interested in, you are following it. So there's a way in which the pleasurable aspects of our brains are activated, and you just want to look at it. You just want to go back to it because you're enjoying the comments, you're enjoying what is being said. You know, for some of us that are football lovers, we've been so much ardent to transfer news and transfer stories on different social media outlets. Oh, who's coming to Arsenal? Who's going to Chelsea? So you are just constantly on it, wanting to see what is happening. So some pathways in the brain are activated, and we call them the reward pathways because they give us some gratification, they give us some set of reward or happiness or pleasure. Now, that itself may not be bad, but over time, it may constantly now lead to some form of affecting our mental health. For instance, number one, our attention and concentration. We all know that with social media comes pop-up notifications, maybe it tells you somebody has liked your picture, or this is this news you have to follow now, and that could lead to a lot of distraction. So you see a lot of people right now, like they're always usually on their phone, pressing this, pressing that, because they have different notifications. So that can affect attention and concentration, especially if for an adolescent who then has to do something else, but because there are notifications from friends on Snapchat or different other medium or social platform medium, they are now distracted and not focused. Now, apart from concentration and attention being affected, there are also a lot of emotional and social impacts that are also related to the use of social media. Because obviously with social media, there's a possibility, as will be explained much later, of being dependent on it or being addicted to it, right? You hardly would you see someone sit down now and then for 1 hour, you are not pressing your phone or you are not trying to catch up with one information or the other. So it also leads to, or tend to almost leading to, a form of dependence, if not well controlled, or a form of addictive related behavior, if not well controlled. Other mental health challenges could also come up from it if one keeps using it or keep being dependent on social media. So social media and mental health is something very important. And over the course of the presentation, I'll delve into much more areas in which it could negatively affect us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Alalade, for kickstarting that and also opening our minds to all the possibilities connected with the use of the social media. Now, when I was talking about the fact that we are always checking, I recall that sometimes now, if there is no notification, I'm trying to check my phone if there is data, there is network, and other things like that, because We're just so attuned to the fact that there must be a message, something must come in, even when nothing is coming in. And that's, I think, is part of the problem that we need to begin to consider. Now, Mr. Bola Pilot would also be discussing or sharing with us now some of the most common mental health challenges that are linked to excessive social media use. Over to you, Mr. Bola Pilot.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye, and good afternoon all. I would have to permit me to stand on the established protocol already. And I'll say thank you very much for the question as well. And thank you, Dr. Alade, for your submission thus far. So let me begin by acknowledging something very important about social media. It's not about good or bad in itself, that is social media, but it's more or less a natural tool. But what matters is how much we spend on it, what we use it for, and the meaning we attach to it. Just as Dr. Alade has said, he has mentioned varieties of them. LinkedIn could help you in terms of your career path and things like that. So how about we look at it like this? Just like fire, it can help cook our food and sometimes even give warmth, depending on the weather, nature of the weather. But it can also burn our food. So it's how we handle it that really does matter. So what are some of the most common mental health challenges linked to excessive social media use? Now, anybody here listening would attest to this? And let's be honest, because that's one of the reasons that we are having this conversation. How many times have you picked up your phone with just the intention of a notification, a WhatsApp notification, and then 45 minutes later, you're finding yourself on Instagram Reels, and then you just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling on? I know how that feels because that's part of the challenge. So in trying to address this question, I'll look at it by touching on 4 key areas, which I've seen personally in my own clinical practice, and as well as what research has also shown us. One of the very common ones is anxiety and depression. And many people, especially the younger ones, find themselves anxious after scrolling through endless highlight reels. You know that feeling where somebody just sends you a link to say, oh, I think I like this shoe, look at it. And then you look at the shoe and then you only just spontaneously realize that you scrolled up and before you know it, time has actually really gone. So the truth is that when some young people look at social media, it seems to give them a feeling that, oh, everyone else is richer, everyone else is happier, or even more beautiful. And this can create a constant sense of, I am not good enough. Why? Because you start to compare, or these young people start to compare themselves with their behind the scenes reality with other people's carefully edited highlights, because that's one of the things that social media really does to us. A typical example is, I once spoke to a 22-year-old student who said, I logged onto Instagram and I suddenly feel my life is stagnant. Everyone else seems to be traveling, graduating, or getting engaged, or doing something meaningful with their life, while I'm just trying to pass my exams. That kind of constant comparison chips away the self-esteem of an individual and creates what we call the comparison trap, because the individual then thinks that, oh, I am not doing anything better for myself. Interestingly, the next thing is loneliness and isolation. And it's quite ironic that this is the most connected generation in the history of human race, but yet also one of the loneliest. There was this book by Sherry Turkle in a book called Alone Together. She explained this paradoxical digital conversation, giving the illusion of closeness, but often lacking depth. Lacking depth. I have to emphasize that. People can have like 1,000 followers online, and yet they feel that they have no one talking when life gets tough. We're social beings, don't forget that. And when we communicate more virtually, it takes away the energy that we bounce off of ourselves. A typical example is that for most of us listening in this afternoon, we have over 20 groups that we are connected to on our WhatsApp phones. And yet, you can imagine somebody going through grief, then experiencing or explaining that, I still feel very much alone. Why? Because social media contact does not always translate into emotional support. And that's the reality. The next thing I'd like to talk about is something that usually affects the younger people or the younger generation. Even some older people have this as well. The body image concern. Think about the filters, the airbrushed photos, looking so perfect, no stain, just flawless. Many young people now compare themselves to an image that does not even exist in reality. because of how much AI has done to the image in itself. So you realize that platforms such as Instagram, TikTok often promote filters, unrealistic beauty standards. And one of the interesting things is that a research by the Royal Society of Public Health in the UK found that Instagram users were strongly linked to a poor body image among younger women. But it's not just only women, to be honest. Many young men now struggle with body dissatisfaction because of the perfect gymming body, which the cultural online to promote. So while I was talking to a teenage girl, while I was counseling, she mentioned that she stopped swimming primarily because her friends, when they took her photos, she couldn't imagine herself being in a swimming suit. So because of that, she stopped swimming totally. Another very important one that affects the general population, mostly maybe adulthood, is sleep problems and concentration difficulties sometimes. The blue light from our devices interferes with melatonin, which is the sleeping hormone. And scrolling late at night, what some call revenge daytime procrastination because they couldn't do it during the day. This delays sleep and sometimes even reduces the quality of rest that we have. And sometimes it also includes affecting our sleep, making us have poor sleep history. This has been documented as well in research. A father once told me that, he goes to bed at 10, but ends up scrolling on TikTok, Instagram, and only realizing that at 12 or sometimes past 12, he's still awake because he's just binging on the use of social media. And the next morning, he complains about feeling exhausted and tired. So these are just some of the things that can cause or it can have an effect on us if we use social media excessively. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Pilot, for that. And your last statement about the fact that people go to bed but wake up feeling exhausted seems to be the story of quite a whole lot of people, because you would go to bed really, but then you find out that you really do not do the activity you should do on bed. You don't sleep. So we end up going through all the different platforms just to catch up. And the phone system has algorithm or something that they call it. It has this format of bringing you all that is related to whatever it is. So you keep seeing a lot of memes, and then you keep laughing, and before you know it, the whole day is gone. Thank you so very much. Dr. Lalade, what are the negative effects? I know that Mr. Pilot has shared some, but let's look at it holistically. Let's look at the various formats. What are the negative effects of social media? Over to you, Dr. Lalade. Dr. Lalade.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. So looking at the negative effects, you will permit me to first say a bit of the good side of it, right? Just so that we don't just keep highlighting how bad it is. Just briefly in 1 minute. I know quite a lot of people have connected to old schoolmates, especially the older generation via Facebook. Like you just see, oh, I'm looking for this, my friend, that my friend, and almost everybody connects through Facebook, right? Mr. Pilot mentioned LinkedIn as helping a lot of people in terms of career. Like different people have gotten opportunities just by showcasing themselves on LinkedIn, and then you start seeing someone saying, I'm working remotely, I'm in Nigeria, but I have a job working for someone in the United States. So that is good, right? Quite a lot of us have learned so many educational things on YouTube, right? You just go on YouTube, there's practically nothing you can know, right? I remember one time when I was learning how to knot a tie and just pressed it on YouTube, how do I knot a tie? You'll see somebody telling you something. Recently, my car had an issue and I pressed it on it too, what to do regarding this. And he told me, so yes, these things are good. They give you information, they provide solution, right? But there could also be negative effects. There could be problems associated with it. And this is why we now have to talk about those negative effects and how they can affect our mental health, and why we need to work around it. The first one I will mention is in relation to misinformation. Social media is also a place where different information come out. Some may be authentic, some may not be authentic, some may be fake. People will start sending you broadcast messages on WhatsApp that you are not so sure of the authenticity. And if you are someone that is predisposed already to having maybe an anxiety-related disorder, or the news is meeting you at a point when you have a very, very low mood, that could actually cause some mental health problems or some acute stress reaction in the individual. So one of the negative effects of social media that can affect mental health is actually when we have quite a lot of misinformation or disinformation. And from that, you can carry that information on, and before you get the true picture of things, you can be so worried, and you keep moving with it. And in this era, day and age, wherein anybody with data and anybody with an Android phone or you can always press anything online, that could be a problem and affect the mental health based on how you take the information. Some other things that could also negatively impact some negative effect of social media on our mental health includes problems with self-esteem and a lot of social comparisons. Like my colleague said earlier, truth about it is it's good, but at the same time could be bad if one now has to keep looking at where am I and where should I be. Sometimes it gingers you to want to do better when you see people excelling, but at the same time, it could create a false sense of wealth or false sense of success. And then you start thinking that, oh, I'm not where I should be, or I should be where I am. You know, I could give an example of someone who I know functions as a security guard, but the building where he secures are a lot of rich people. And then he goes during the weekend to take pictures with their cars, which include Benz and a lot of high-class cars. And then he posts this on his status on WhatsApp, also post it on Instagram. I know the guy, and I know it's not his car. But obviously, he will tell me, he'll say, hey, they are demanding money from you. My people in my village are like, hey, you have arrived. You're already with the Benz, you're already with this. And someone in that village could now start feeling pressure, feel pressurized and say, oh, I have to get it. Oh, I have to also be this way. So it could now start making them feel low of themselves, but really they are doing well where they are. So social media can lead to comparison, can lead to problems with self-esteem. A study by Tigerman and Slater in 2013 found that exposure to idealized images on social media correlates with negative body image and decreased satisfaction. So the individuals would have decreased satisfaction. Meanwhile, you're actually doing well for yourself, or rather would now lead to some problems with validation. So when I post something online and probably people are commenting, let's say someone posts and people are commenting and giving some reviews that may not be so okay, the individual may start feeling like low in confidence or waiting for likes so that you can validate yourself and say, yes, people like my picture. And that could affect someone who has problems with self-image and self-esteem. So that could be a problem with some negative effects. Aside that, could also be cyberbullying and cyber stalking and a lot of online harassment. In this area of social media, yes, we appreciate that there are some cyber bullying laws or some laws related to cyber acts, but it still occurs. Cyberbullying is when we refer to intentional, repetitive use of these digital platforms to harass, to threaten, or to humiliate individuals. So just one response. I don't know if we see it when some people will be like, so the person I'm chatting with on X is actually way younger than me. So you're having an argument, you're probably a 54-year-old man, and somebody that is 18-year-old is sending you to your father's house and say, see you, that's why you're not fine. Look at your picture online, this and that. And then you're wondering that, wow, because it's a space where everybody meets, everybody talks, you really don't know who you are talking to. And it could be somebody way younger and even elderly, and they start bullying you, the way they talk, the way they respond, unguarded statements and comments, or going after you in very critical ways. It could even be your picture that is just there, and probably that's why some people put their Instagram handles on private, you know, and somebody picks it and starts harassing you with it. So it could also take forms of spreading rumors, right? Threatening messages or posting harmful contents online. So it could also be a negative effect from social media. We mentioned social media addiction, right? Like you just have to be there. You just have to know what is going on. There's a concept that is called fear of missing out, because you don't want to miss out. This brings out a lot of anxiety. Hey, what is going on? Oh, hey, I didn't know that information. Somebody's telling you, didn't you see it online? They said this. Oh, didn't you see that they mentioned that this political thing is happening? And you're like, oh, I didn't know. So there's a fear of missing online. And that leads to some form of anxiety and tension as to what next would I miss, what next will be said, what next will be shared. And so that would also be a negative effect. Yes, sleep has been mentioned earlier. Sleep problems because you are just constantly there, spending a lot of time. Another problem or negative effect is also some of these mental illnesses that had been mentioned, right? What we see, the way people address issues can lead to some depressive disorder because of the comments that is being given, right? So it could lead to that. It could worsen someone's adjustment in different ways beyond what they might want. Another problem that could also come, which may not be like have a direct link, but also related to social media and mental health, is also problems with time management. And so there now comes a lot of procrastination, a lot of not doing things you are meant to do at the right time. And because of that, it now starts becoming, one now starts procrastinating and not doing things that is meant to be done at the right time. And because of that, there is now pressure or stress when you now have to meet up with deadlines, you now have to meet up with things you have to do because one has been carried away with social media. Isolation, loneliness had been mentioned earlier, which could also be negative effects of social media and how it affects the mental health. While we are still saying this, I need to reiterate, a fine balance is just needed. Will not because of that throw away social media, because it also still has plenty benefits. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And I love your conclusion, and that's the fact that there should be a fine balance. You know, when you started earlier, you talked about the fact that connecting, and you remember in those days when you would have to send a message, and then there, Obato Mialala Day, I am happy to write this letter to you. How are you doing? And you know, a whole lot. And then it take 1 week or 2 weeks or 9 posts to get it there, and even the event or anything. But at least with this, the advent of the social media, it's a whole lot better, and then we're able to communicate a whole lot more. So thank you so very much, Dr. Alalade, for opening our mind to all of those things. Now, Mr. Bolahon, how can people realize or recognize the signs of social media addiction or even challenges with social media? How do you know that, oh, there is the issues, or you are having issues, or maybe your children or your child or whatever, they're having issues with social media? Over to you, Mr. Bolahon.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye, once again. And thank you, Dr. Alade, because you give me a very good platform to always jump on with the next question, to be very honest. So how do we know when social media has crossed from being an habit to becoming something of an unhealthy dependence? Now, this is very important to say that there are varieties of ways that we can know when it becomes a form of addiction. And just like every other source of addiction in the field of mental health, there could be psychological impact, social impact, even biological impact at some times. But I would like to try and narrow down my conversation to just practical things along these 4 lines. Now, one of the very key things as an individual that you can use as a spotlight to know when your use of social media is seemingly becoming addictive is that the first thing is that you start to see that it interferes with your daily life. Now, for some people, you'd realize that you take away their phone from them, it seems like the world is going to come to an end. And the truth about it is that it's not like it is indeed going to come to an end. But you realize that when it starts to interfere with your daily life, then that becomes a problem. It could happen in a teenager, for example, where a teenager has homework, and maybe because the teenager is used to having gadgets as a result of maybe assignments or things like that. And then you say, okay, take your phone or take your tablet to do your assignment. And then you're coming back 2 hours later, this child has not written anything on the homework, and he has just possibly just kept that time, using the time solely to just use social media. So sometimes it interferes with daily life in the context of you lose track of times, and what you'll be doing at that time is that you're just scrolling. And because of there's a psychological implication, a social psychological implication in the development of most of these applications. You realize that one, they look very attractive, and it just feels very spontaneous to just hold a phone or a gadget and you just want to scroll it up. And you just give that feel like, okay, I'm just going, and then you just keep going. And before you realize it, it's just more or less like you've spent a whole lot of time. So it also could affect somebody who is also an employee. Most of people who work at home, from their conversations, sometimes in session, you realize that, oh, I just want to take a break, or they get a notification on their phone and then they're bouncing on their phone. And before they realize, they've spent another 30 minutes or 45 minutes of work time doing just scrolling through life reels. The second thing is that it affects, for you to know that it starts affecting you in terms of being an addiction, it gives some sort of like withdrawal symptoms like feeling. And there's this thing called nomophobia. Now, people with nomophobia often feel this sense of restlessness, anxiousness, or even panic if they are disconnected from their phones. They feel like, oh, the world's going to come to an end. Some people, if you just want to punish them right now, pick their phone and just act like you've stolen it or something. And you will just see them in the worst shape ever, because it brings sometimes these withdrawal symptoms, and they can become suddenly very irritable, restless. It might even develop low mood by just the mere fact that they are offline. Some even report what is called phantom vibration. That imaginary feeling that their phone is buzzing. That sometimes people will say, oh, that's my phone. Or for men, sometimes you'd realize that if you usually put your phone in your pocket, there could just be this tingling sensation somewhere along your laps once in a while. That's what some phantom vibration can feel like. And then the third thing again is the loss of control. Repeatedly intending to spend 10 minutes online, but ending up scrolling for 2 hours. And then that cycle of guilt or overuse mirrors addictive behavior, like, oh, I've just done something wrong again. Oh, I said I was going to use 1 minute. I've gone on to use 3 hours. I've gone on to use 2 hours. I've gone on to use 45 minutes. And the last thing I would like to talk about, which most young people, unfortunately, because they are the generations that are really predisposed to the extreme use or heavy use of social media, is that it brings about sometimes a bit of impacting on their self-esteem. You'd realize that sometimes their mood raises or sometimes even falls very, it's like it oscillates a lot, because they tend to feel like, oh, when I post, for example, Dr. has mentioned about posts and likes. Some people would post a video or a picture of themselves, and then they're looking at the likes, they're looking at the comments, they're trying to see, oh, who do I just add to my followership? There's something on Instagram, on Snapchat, they call it streaks. Young people will understand what I'm trying to talk about. And these streaks, if you look at the subtle interpretation of what streaks are, to me, the way I interpret it is more or less like a subtle way of creating an addiction, because it's like every day I have to connect with a friend. And how do I connect? Maybe by just sending pictures or by just sending something of myself. It could be a blank image, it could be my dressing, it could be something. And they say we are keeping streaks. And the longer you keep the streaks, there's a little bit of a dopamine drop. And that also is what addiction somehow mimics in a way. And some of these things are things that it's also very much evident. And there's this thing called FOMO, that is the fear of missing out. FOMO is the anxiety that others are having a rewarding experience without you, and like you're missing out on something. So if a young person is without his phone, it's just like, I'm missing out on something, there's something going on. And this could be an indication of addiction. So I'd just like to just share this example as I'm wrapping up on this conversation. I once had a client who said, when I post a picture, I can't relax until I see the likes rolling in. If they don't come, I feel invisible, like nobody has seen it. Nobody has even seen my post or my pictures or likes my comments. And that's not just like a casual use, that's more like a dependency use. So that dependency can then translate to some form of addiction or addictive use of social media. So one of the things I like to do in session when I work with some of these individuals is I like to ask a very fundamental question. Now, who is in control, you or the app? Now, that's simply sometimes, in terms of that simple question, it helps them to reflect on their relationship with technology. The problem is not the technology, it's more about your relationship with the technology. So is the app in control, or it is you who is in control of the use of the app? Thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye.
Thank you so very much. I had to write that down. Your relationship with the technology. And for me, that's very profound, very, very profound, because that determines who is in control. Now, it's raising questions in my mind, and it's like, so how would this gadget now be in control of a whole me, a big me like that? But it's a lot, and that's what Dr. Alalade would start by talking with us about now, because we need to start understanding how do we establish some healthy coping strategies or that would help us to be able to deal with either the teenage and pressure, or the digital pressure, peer pressure, the need for validation, as much as body image issue that's going on the social media page. Over to you, Dr. Alalade.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I appreciate, it's been a wonderful discussion. We've identified that, yes, social media could negatively impact on our mental health. And now we just need to look at how can we moderate it? What are better coping strategies that we can use regarding the social media? Like my colleague said there, who is in control? Is it you or the social media? I'll give you a quick example. Have you observed that if you have like 4 friends who probably have not seen each other in a while and they decide to have a hangout or something, maybe after like 30 minutes, 1 hour, hey, how are you? The next thing, you could see that all of them are on their phone and they may be silent for another 5-10 minutes because we are just so used to these phones, these gadgets, being on social media, these apps, that we've forgotten what it means like for physical connection, physical meetings or gatherings, and before you know it, everybody's on the phone. I wonder, I sometimes ask, can you hold a discussion without just wanting to check your phone to say, oh, what's going on? What has been said? Like, can you just drop it and you're talking? It's getting more difficult and difficult for individuals. And so that is why we have to look for coping mechanisms, coping strategies. And from what I said, the first one is we just have to set limits and set boundaries. The question is, there has to be a responsible usage of your time. There has to be like, okay, this is I'm going on social media now. I just need to, it must be specific and targeted. Like, I'm not just going to just check for checking's sake. I have something I need to look at, or I need to check some mails, I need to send some information to somebody, and this and that. You have to set limits so that all your time doesn't go, oh, I want to go on Instagram now, I won't use more than 20 minutes. You could set a timer, because honestly speaking, a lot of time when we go on all these pages, we may plan to spend 10 minutes and before we know it, we are there for 1 hour. So if you have to set a timer that after every 15 minutes, it rings and lets you know, oh, really, I spent 15 minutes on this thing, then it helps you to know, okay, I have to take a break. Again, we have our phones, which most times lets us know how long you spent on your phone or on different apps in the week. My phone does that and will tell me, oh, in the course of the week, you spend so number of hours on different platforms, and probably tell me which day of the week I spent more time on social media. And then when I discovered that there was a particular day, I kept saying that, oh, on Tuesdays, I stay longer. And then I had to ask myself, and I saw that Tuesdays, I have a bit of better spare time on my hands. And so I get to stay more on social media. So because of that, it helped me moderate it. It helped me look into it to say, okay, I have to find a balance. Again, we could put on our phone settings in such a way that by 9 o'clock, all have sleep, or by 9 o'clock, I can't access them again. Like it can be set on our phone and in such a way that helps you moderate the use. So responsible usage, setting limits is very important. There's also a concept called digital detoxification. And it's a situation in which you try to take breaks from your social media platforms, and so that you can reconnect to yourself. From what we've been discussing, you know, when you are all of these things, if your resilience is not strong or you are predisposed to some mental health challenges, it could affect your esteem. So you have to reconnect to yourself. You have to stay away from it to be able to do that. Again, we should be careful with the accounts we follow or not. You know, some of these things you have those you follow. Who are you following? Are they those who will give you some positive engagements and positive contents? Are you following those who would make you feel inferior or less of yourself? And interestingly, accounts to follow are your choice. So you can decide, this is the content I want. These are the people I want to follow. You know, on X, you hear there's a religious Twitter, there's a political Twitter, there's a Christianity Twitter, there's this Twitter. You decide on who to follow. So you can decide who to follow, who to unfollow, accounts to mute when you know that these things are getting to me. Again, like we said, notifications, everything, we can reduce them, we can put them off so that it's not constantly disturbing us and we are having the fear of missing out, or we're having anxiety because of that. For those that experience some form of cyberbullying, we should report them, obviously, which is also part of what can help us. We should be careful of where we get our information, because misinformation is also common on social media platforms, and which can then put a lot of fear and anxiety inside of us. So it's quite important. We should also try to engage in very positive discussions, right? Discussions that are enlightening on the social media space. We all know that people organize space sessions on X, and when you are there, there are different space sessions that could even be beneficial to you, add to what you need to know, and improve you generally. So our choice matters. What we decide to look out for also matters. So it could help us engage, and we should engage in more positive discussions or more positive things that can help us on social media. We should also try to see as much as possible how we can relate more physically, right? Now you could do a lot of religious things without getting to your place of worship physically. And so you could join your midweek services, or you could join your church on Instagram, join one program online, and you are not there. You must also learn to reconnect, occasionally learn to just say, okay, I want to make it physical, so that you don't get lazy, so that you don't get too dependent on that device, on what you are doing, is quite important. Let us also remember that generally speaking, except if your work has to do with you must be on the phone regularly, we should just have an average. Okay, this is the number of hours to stay on this. It is important, because if we do not, just like what Mr. Pilot said, who would then be in control, myself or the phone, and how would they affect my mental health? So with these coping strategies, I believe it would be able to help us get better, while still tapping into the positive aspect of social media. We prevent falling into the negative effects and how it can affect our mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Alalade. I wrote here, I said, and that came very strongly for me, and that's the fact that you said, who are you following? Now, the accounts you follow, they are your choice. So we have that onus, you have that responsibility to choose the kind of account you would follow, and even the persons that you would follow, as long as, because there were accounts that I had to unfollow at a certain period because I felt I wasn't gaining anything, and there was nothing that was really coming from them that was impacting me in any way. Rather, it's like following them for gist and other things like that. And at the point, it was becoming toxic. And so we own ourselves that responsibility to be able to either follow or unfollow, and just be sure that whatever it is or whoever it is that we're following could contribute something meaningful to our lives, and helps us to be able to find the right pathway that we would go. Thank you so very much. Mr. Gbolahan, please note that you could send comment, questions, and others to the chat box. We'll be willing to take them at the end of this conversation. What are some practical boundaries individuals or family can implement to create healthier relationship with social media, considering some of us who have younger ones who, yes, wants to get into the social media space? They want it by all means. What are those boundaries we can put in place? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye, and I'll say again, Dr. Alalade, because like I said, you give me good platforms to work on. Some of the things I'll be talking about, you've talked about them, you've alighted on them, but I would just like to start by saying that the major reasons why we will be talking about boundaries is because we're trying to move from an unhealthy dependence in terms of use to a more balanced and please intentional use of all of this social media. Like the total idea has highlighted, which I'll just briefly touch on, and I'll give an example to just buttress that, is that you have to set time limits, and it has to be very intentional, because it's just like the dopamine, the rewarding part of the brain. It's like when you watch some of these kids and then it makes you very happy, and then you're laughing, and then you just want to keep going and you want to keep going. The reality is that it might be a bit difficult for you to set limits. And one of the funny things with all of these social media apps are that they use a lot of algorithms. So you realize that, for example, the day you go and search about, let's say, the next iPhone 17 or about iPhone 16, or you search about a particular car, for example, or you just search about a particular thing of interest, you're likely to realize that the next feeds you'll be getting over that period of time would likely be around that thing of interest. So it's sometimes a bit difficult to do, but one of it is that you have to be able to train yourself by setting time limits and being very intentional. And research has also shown that when you do this, it has an impact on your overall well-being. A mother that I was once just having a conversation with, this wasn't even a session, but I was just trying to help her at the time. And then I said to her, like, you're a working mother, try and stay away with your phone at particular times of the day and try and use it to do something different And then, they were giving feedbacks that showed that it's been very, very helpful, because she was saying that after about a week, she noticed that she had more energy to read, to pray, and also even play with her kids, and didn't realize how much time she was losing by staying on the social media. Another very important thing that you can do is to create tech-free space and times. For example, a family could set the idea that, oh, okay, on certain times we don't want phone to be, like example, on the dining table. No phones during family time. And you can then go on to say, you know what, no phones even within the bedroom. These are very important things that we can try to look at. This not only protects, for example, the mental health, but it also improves in terms of the relationship. And family can agree to say, you know what, we need to have screen curfews. While growing up, I grew up in an environment where I grew up with my grandma, all my cousins, and everybody. And then you realize that when the other person's parent comes around, there's always an energy. And we always had this thing we do in the evenings. I know some of us will remember, maybe I don't want to sound too old, where you have the lanterns and the lights, where you sit on the mat outside and everybody's having a story to tell, everybody's connecting one way or the other. And because we're social beings, we need to bounce off some of this energy, to be very honest. And so creating screen curfews, for instance, can help the family have some bonding time, because if we all look at it as, if you have an adult, you spend the bulk of your productive hours outside of the house. So it's also very important that we shift our use from passive to active use. So what do I mean by passive use? Passive use is when you're just consuming content and then you're just holding onto your phone, you're just scrolling on the reels, and then you're going on and you're going on. This has been linked to low well-being. And then there's what we call the active use, which includes, like, for example, either you're posting, either you're connecting with friends on Facebook, or creating your own community professionally within LinkedIn. And then, you're joining meaningful groups, or maybe on WhatsApp or things like that. That tends to be a lot more elder, because the primary reason why you join the group, or you're connecting, or you're posting, is clearly stated, and that has a way of making you enjoy the use more. So I would like to ask some of our viewers this afternoon, are you engaging or just consuming? So are you actually actively using social media, or you're just passively using social media? One of the other very important things is that you have to be able to do what we call curating your own feed. Now, unfollow accounts that trigger negative comparison. Now, I was watching something on TikTok. I use TikTok, but unfortunately, I don't have an account on TikTok. I just scroll for social, just to scroll. And Dr. Lalade has also, exposed some of us that we're now only following certain social media feeds because of the transfer windows, and you'd realize that you when you create your own feed, it gives you that opportunity to do what you want to do, and not just following anything. So I was watching at that reels that I was saying the other time, and two different pictures, the person put them side by side. One was filtered, the other one was not filtered. And if you look at it, if you hadn't seen the unfiltered picture first, if you had seen the filtered pictures first, you wouldn't have even think that was the person, because it looked like two different pictures. So creating your own feed, knowing what you follow, being in control is very, very important. You could also be more important by being more genuine with yourself, by trying as much as possible to encourage offline substitute, because just like every addiction, if you're trying to get out of it, you have to find a very healthy substitute. So we're not just saying that, oh, this is stop this, and what are you going to run to next? So replacing some screen time with analog joys, like, for example, reading a book, taking a walk, journaling, or connecting with people. Families can decide to say, okay, you know what we'll do. I know at some point I grew up playing some board games, Monopoly and the likes. And you ask yourself these days, or chess or things like that, how many people still genuinely do that? Some people would say, oh, I'd rather play it on my phone. Other people would rather say, okay, let me do it by myself. And this is like why I've said earlier that loneliness, we are like the most connected generation by virtue of social media, but at the same time, it seems like we're still pretty much apart. So it's also very important that as elder ones in the family, or as parents in the family, we have to be able to model healthy behaviors as adults. And one of the things we can do is that we know that our children have a way of copying whatever they see. So you realize that in some homes where parents give their children tablets and children are using their own tablets, the father is on his own phone, you realize that everybody's just like is that really like a family? Everybody's just doing their own thing. There's really no connection in any way or bonding time. So it's very important that we try and address this by making sure that as parents, we try as much as possible to deviate away from the habits. So I'll give a very typical example of one experience that was shared with me in session. So I advised the father to put away his phone for an hour each evening to play with his son when he gets home. You know, let him be obvious that, okay, this is me and you, and they engage, right? And within a month, his son began copying what he did, which was he put his toy that looked like a phone that he uses as a phone aside whenever the daddy came back home. And this is the power of modeling. So we can always use ourselves as standard and as example to be able to model our lives and also impact on our children's life. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Are you engaging or are you consuming? I got that, and that's very important. But you know, when you were saying, I do not want to sound so old, are you not old? You are old already. You do not belong to this generation. So please relax, sir. No, you did that. You're a lot more. We did 10-10. Those things were quite engaging, very stimulating, and it helped us to be very calculative in nature, you know, as against what we have now. Yes, I'm not saying it's better, but at least it was good for us even at that time. I would be taking some comment from the chat box. Jane says, I love the introduction of the topic already, richly presented. Thank you. Suara says, good morning, Saz and Ma. Okay, present in the house this morning. Thank you so very much for being here. Dr. Princess Ngozi KG, thank you so much. I've seen so much of your contributions and comments on this platform today. Thank you so very much. They might get physically violent. Yes, I had seen clips on the social media when they would take the gadget from the children, and you will see them getting visibly aggressive, throwing up and a whole lot of other things. And that will tell you the power of addiction that we are talking about. Yes, inanimate objects, to be specific. Yes. That's when Pilot mentioned the fact that the phone is controlling. So she's saying, yes, inanimate objects shouldn't be controlling us. Felix says, nice presentation. Dr. Princess Ngozi said, we have lost the art of actually communicating with one another. And that's true, because everybody engages in their own space, in their own world, but we are all really not communicating. Sometimes people even send messages. It's there, it's visible, it's obvious, but we're not seeing it because we're only just seeing the things that we want to see. Magdalene says, insightful and healthy discussion. Thank you so very much. We're grateful that you could be here with us. Dr. Princess said again, we have more people who don't know how to play board game or do puzzle, etc. And I agree with you. What we have even electronically isn't as good as what you would do with the physical gadget in itself. Dr. Alalade Augustine James said, Dr. Alalade talked about FEMOR, so please kindly shed a bit more light. Okay, fear of missing out, Dr. Alalade. You will talk about that in a minute. Kindly shed a bit more light on it, please. The session is highly insightful. Thank you. Children don't play outside games again. Yes. Doma says, as a Gen Z, this is very insightful and this is very interesting. This is an interesting session. I have learned and I'm learning. Thank you so very much, Doma, for being here. So, Dr. Lara, they quickly talk about fear of missing out. Quickly.
Very much. So fear of missing out can be seen as a feeling of anxiety, right? Or apprehension that other people are probably having a rewarding experience from which you are absent. So because you are not online, because you are probably doing something else, you are like, oh, maybe they've dropped an information, maybe there's a news, maybe there's a gist, I'm missing out on it. So it is FOMO, fear of missing out. So there's already an anxiety about something, you're missing out on something that's been dropped on social media. So because of that, the individual may feel compelled to constantly check their feeds, to refresh, to want to see what is going on so that they avoid missing out on social interaction. So this is part of the negative effect of social media that can affect our mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That's the response to that. Great, Alex says, great presentation. Oluyemi says, quite educative. Want to suggest you take to offices and school, even churches, we have lost the balance. And I would agree with you. And that's why we're bringing this here. Now, we had passed the information to you. Please pass it on. Pass it on. Take comments and things that you have learned from this platform and share with other people. The video clips of this recording would be on the YouTube page of the Yaba Voice, Yaba Voice FMPHY, one word, Yaba Voice FMPHY. You would get this recording as well as episodes that we had done in the past, and then you could be a vanguard and begin to share to as many people as possible. So he says, nice presentation. I'm very happy. Thanks to the presenter. Veronica says, I'm myself addicted, and I will use this insight to work on myself. I'm glad to be a part of this conversation. Quite a lot of us are, not just you, quite a whole lot of us are. With all that is going on and every other thing, a whole lot of people are quite addicted, and that's the need for all of this. So I'm happy that at least this has been able to help you. Auguste says, thank you so very much. Omonigi says, thanks for the inspiring presentation. I learned the need to be more disciplined with the use of my phone. Thank you so very much. Our time is running out. It's been a wonderful 1 hour well spent. I would say that to you. Dr. Lalade, can you have your last word in just 1 minute?
Thank you very much. Social media is good. There are a lot of benefits associated with it. However, very important for us to have a fine balance between the use of social media so that we don't have negative effects that can then affect our mental health. Additionally, please watch it from childhood, because even the child, the 5-year-old that is not yet on social media, but you are constantly giving phones or tablets to keep watching stuffs and games, can over time now get dependent on social media because you just have to be on gadgets. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so very much. And you know what we used to do in those days is just to keep them busy, and eventually it's turning into something else. Thank you so much for Dr. Alade. Mr. Bola Pilot, yes, the last word.
All right, thank you very much. So I'd like to borrow from Carl Jung, who once said, you cannot change anything unless we accept it. So social media is here to stay. It's part of our world. It's part of our work. It's even part of our relationship. And for me, the goal is not to demonize it, but to balance the odds by recognizing the mental health challenges, spotting the signs of addiction early, just as Aladi has said, not introducing them to it early, and creating intentional boundaries. We can ensure that social media serves us rather than the other way around. So in essence, let us be the masters of our screen and not slaves to them. Thank you very much.
Be the master and not slave. Thank you so very much, Mr. Bola Pilot. Oluyemisi Echidiron says, great for putting on YouTube. Trust me, I sharing the link once I get it. Well done. Like I said, this would come up as soon as finish this webinar today. Yaba Voice, FMPHY, one word. Yaba Voice. You will see this episode as well as the previous recordings of the Yaba Voice webinar. You're free to share, but please, we encourage that you subscribe to our YouTube page and you like, share, and just follow us. We'll all be grateful for that. Olufumalayo Tai Jagwemi says, good work. Thank you so very much, everyone, for being on this call. Next month, by the grace of God, we're going to be looking at something very germane too, and that's the issue of suicide, because it's going to be the month of suicide prevention month. That's the month of September. It's going to be the suicide prevention month, and then we'll be looking at something very, very instructive also when you talk about suicide, especially with the prevailing economic situation, challenges, the current realities that quite a lot of people do have to face. It's been 1 hour well spent. We will have to take our leave. So on behalf of the medical director, Dr. Lubenga Adekile Owoeye, and every member of the Yaba Voice team, and also on behalf of the management team, want to say thank you for being on this call with us. Thank you to our speakers, Mr. Bola Pilot, Dr. Alala. You would testify that they are seasoned experts in this. When they start introducing something and say distinguish and this, you will know that what will drop from their mouth is really something big, and you will testify that they really did justice to this conversation today. So until we come your way again, please, questions that you must answer. Who are you following? Accounts that you follow are your choice. Is it controlling you, or are you engaging, or you are consuming? These are things that I am taking home. I've written them down. I wrote down my own. If there is a need for detoxification, please go ahead and do it. And if you need to reach out, we are always available to talk to you. Please reach out to us at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos. We will be able to take your questions and refer you appropriately to the right quarters until we come your way again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
good.
you for having me.
Very good.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Mhm.